The Real Mccoys, starring Walter Brennan, created by Irving Pincus.
Want you to meet the family known as the Real Mccoys. That's Grandpappy Amos, the head of the clan. He roars like a lion, but he's gentle as a lamb. And now here's Luke, who beams with joy since he's made Kate Mrs. Luke McCoy. From West Virginia they came to stay in sunny California. Old Grandpappy Amos and the girls and the boys of the family known as the Real McCoys.
Hi, George. Hi, Luke. Well, you all packed and ready to go?
Yep. Just come over and say goodbye.
Have a nice trip.
Thank you.
Don't worry about a thing, George. I'll take care of everything for you while you're gone.
Thank you, Luke. I know it's an imposition, but I sure appreciate your help.
Oh, don't mention it. By the way, you haven't told Grandpa that you asked me to look after your place instead of him, have you?
I ain't said a word.
Good. Well, you know Grandpa. It might kind of get his feelings hurt.
Senor Grandpa hurt?
No.
Insulted, yes.
And after all, he's got his hands full taking care of his own problems.
Oh, hi, George.
Hi, Kate.
Grandpa, George is here.
Now, be kind of gentle, George.
Now, don't worry. I'll handle him diplomatic. I ain't going to tell him at all.
You can be more diplomatic than that.
I just called your house. I thought you run off without saying goodbye to me.
No, no, I never do that to my very best old friend. Well, goodbye, Amos. I'm going to miss you, but I'll see you at the end of the week.
Yeah, well, goodbye, George, and take good care of that mangy old hide of yours. Of course, there ain't much to look at, but leastwise it holds you together.
Drive slow now, George. Oh, and you be careful where you eat your meals.
Oh, I'll be fine, so don't you go worrying about me, though it's good to know you do.
Of course we do. It's just like you're part of the family.
You're just like a blood kin, George.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, George, wait a minute.
I'm in a hurry, Amos. I'm behind schedule now.
But, George, somebody's got to run that farm for you.
Yeah, well, I'll talk to you about that when I get back.
But the apple crop has already been picked, and that Mother Norma's frozen pie man is due here any time now. Somebody's got to sell them apples for you.
Oh, yeah, that.
I guess you're so busy packing, you kind of slipped your mind, huh?
Well, Amos...
Well, look, don't worry none about it, George. I'll take care of it for you. We got the best apples in the valley, and Mother Norma knows it. She'll have to cough up $5.75 a bushel for our apples, and I'll be pleased to choke it out of her for yours.
Well, it's nice of you to offer, Amos, but...
Yeah, that's all right, George. I'll handle it for you.
But Amos, I get somebody already to handle it for me.
Who?
Luke.
Luke who?
Luke McCoy.
Me?
Well, now, what did you go and do a stupid thing like that for?
Grandpa!
Luke's just a toothless babe when it comes to dickering. You know that Mother Norman's a crook, and you need somebody who can deal with her on even terms, George.
I just asked Luke to sell my apples at a fair price.
What's the price?
$5.25.
5 1/4?
Yeah, and I give the McCoy word not to take 1 penny less.
God darn it, George, you're undercutting me.
No, I ain't. Amos, in spite of all your flim-flamming and skullduggery, you never get more than 5 1/4, and you ain't gonna get any more this year.
George is right, Grandpa.
Now, you keep out of this. I tell you, George, this year we can get a price.
That's what you said last year, and we come near to losing the deal altogether.
And so because you ain't got gumption, you sneak behind my back and weasel one of my own family to betray me and undercut my price.
But that's the top price for the best apples in the whole valley.
Well, I'm getting $5.75 a bushel, and no backbiting double dealer's going to stop me.
Amos, believe me, I just didn't want to worry about my apples while I was away.
Well, all right, George. You just don't worry. You just go away and have a nice trip now.
Well, now, you make me feel a lot better. Thank you, Amos. Goodbye.
Bye, George.
So long, George. George,
Bye, George.
don't you worry none now.
Well, Grandpa, I'm glad to see you decide to think on it calm-like.
Yeah, and George would have been miserable if you two had parted mad.
Well, now, you can't blame poor George. He just don't use the sense the good Lord done give him. So we have to help him out, Luke.
Oh, how's that, Grandpa?
Well, we'll stick together on the price and get that extra 50 cents a bushel.
Oh, well, I can't do that, Grandpa. I promised George I'd sell his apples for 5 1/4.
You mean you'd go again your own grandpa, your own flesh and blood, for a total stranger?
Well, now, George ain't hardly total.
Well, now, boy, you're just snatching the food right out of your own mouth.
Now, look, Grandpa, I give George the McCoy word, and I'm going to stick to it.
Well, then, let me tell you something, boy. You're going to learn that the McCoy word ain't only something to stick to, it's also something you can get stuck with. What time is it, Kate?
Grandpa, that's the 4th time you've asked me that.
Look, I didn't ask you what the score was. I asked you what time it was.
It's nearly 3.
Luke's still over at McMichael's, I suppose, huh?
I suppose. Oh, there's the Mother Norman car coming by.
I'll get it. I'll get it. Howdy, Mr. Milton. Ain't seen you since last year about this time.
I know.
Well, how's Mother Norman?
She's fine, thank you. I got your call to come out here before I went to McMichael. You wanted to talk business, I assume?
Well, I guess it ain't no military secret to tell you that George McMichael and me got the best apples a tree ever squeezed out of its Jeff.
Your apples are fine, McCoy. How much are you asking?
Well, me and George got together and we sort of talked over the price we should ought to get, and the figure we finally decided was $5.75 a bushel.
That's way out of line. I'm paying 5 1/4 flat.
Well, we ain't taking nothing less than $5.75.
Oh, lots of luck. I'll go over and see McMichael.
It won't do you no good.
What do you mean?
Well, George happens to be out of town, and you got to deal with me.
You mean he gave you the authority to speak for him?
Mr. Milton, he put his faith in the McCoy judgment. Now, if you want his apples, well, you have to deal with me, and I say $5.75.
And I say no deal. I got a stomach full of squabbling with you last year, and I'm not going to go through it again. You and Mother Norman are through. And when you see George McMichael, you can tell him that goes for him, too.
Mr. Milton, wait a minute.
Now, Kate, this is a business conference and don't concern you.
Yes, it does, Grandpa. The fact is, Mr. Milton, George McMichael left my husband Luke in charge of selling his apples, and he's over at the McMichaels right now waiting for you.
Oh, is that so? Well, thank you very much,
Now, wait a
Mrs.
minute,
McCoy.
Mr. Milton. You can't do business with her husband. You'd be taking advantage of a poor, ignorant boy.
Grandpa, how can you say a thing like that about your own grandson?
If that grandson of mine sells them apples cheap, then he ain't no grandson of mine. And I don't have to be sweet to strangers.
Well, these apples seem to be all right. They're Mother Norman quality. Now, what about the price?
Well, Mr. Milton, I ain't never dealt with you before, so I don't know your style. But if you're one of them runner-downers, it ain't going to do you no good to start insulting George's apples. Because if you do, I'm just going to have to tell you that Mother Norman's pies is mainly apple cores and stems.
I dislike haggling, Mr. McCoy.
Good. Well, the fact of the matter is, Mr. Milton, George give me a price, and I ain't going below it.
All right, I'll give you my top price. 5 1/4 a bushel.
That sounds good to me.
Good. Then it's a deal.
Stop. Hold it.
I'm about to make a deal. How about it?
For how much?
5 1/4 a bushel. What about it?
Hey, don't do it, Luke.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Grandpa. Mr. Milton, you got yourself
Hold
beat.
it. I'll sell you my apples for $5.20 a bushel.
That's the kind of talk I like to hear.
Grandpa, you're just cutting off your nose to spite your own face.
Well, if you suffer from it, maybe you'll learn you never to go contrary-wise to me again.
Well, now, how about the McMichael apples? $5.20?
Well,
He can't sell them. If he give the McCoy word, he wouldn't sell less than 5 1/4. And no McCoy ever breaks the McCoy word. Is it a deal, Mr. Milton?
It's a deal.
Impossible. Grandpa just couldn't have done it.
well, I couldn't believe my own eyes or ears. But Grandpa done it, deliberate.
But Senor George is his best friend.
If I was Grandpa, I'd be ashamed to face this.
Hey, look. Well, now, what's everybody sitting around for? We got work to do.
Well, what kind of work was you referring to, Grandpa?
Apples. We got over 100 bushels to pick by Sandy. Come on, Luke, Peppina, let's get at it. Let's go now. Well, what's the matter? I don't see nobody following me.
Well, how could you do it?
Do what?
I didn't think there was enough apples or money in the world to make you betray your best friend.
Well, now, the way I look at it, the crooked shoe's on the other foot. The way he come over here sneaking behind my back to get Luke to take care of things for him. Or setting one McCoy again the other. You can thank your lucky stars, Luke, that I got you out this terrible mess you got into.
Well, I don't see it that way, Grandpa. And I ain't gonna have nothing to do with what you're doing to George.
All right. I ain't got no time to argue with you now. Come on, Peppina. It just means that me and you's got to do double work. Let's go. Well, come on.
Oh! Senor Rampa, I think I broke a muscle in my back. I can't move.
What kind of story is this?
I swear, it's as true as the story you told about Senor George.
All right, I don't need your help. I'll do all the picking myself. And if I was you, Peppina, the next time the mailman come by here, I'd stop him. I'd get myself a change of address card.
Here I am. How's all my favorite people?
Now the fat's in the fire.
No, Luke, don't say nothing to George. Remember, Grandpa's still your grandpa no matter what. Come in, George.
George!
Welcome back.
Oh, George, nice to be back here. Look, here's something for you. A little appreciation for taking care of the farm.
Oh, now, George, you shouldn't have done this.
Oh, you'll love it. It's a beautiful sweater. Apple green. And Kate, I didn't forget you. It ain't big, but it smells awful nice. Apple blossom. Peppino, a tie for you. And I get something for your grandpa, too. Where is the old buzzard?
Anyway, he's in the bedroom soaking his feet. But maybe you
Soaking his feet? He ought to be soaking his head.
George!
George, wait a minute.
I'm back, Amos. How are you, old friend?
Oh, done it. What do you mean of busting into my private bedroom like this?
Still the same old Amos. I don't know why I missed you, but I did. Oh, a little surprise. A present for you.
You got a present for me, George?
Sure, why not? You're my best friend, ain't you?
Yeah, sure, George.
I know you was a little hurt about me leaving Luke in charge of my place.
Well,
Because, you're my best friend, and you like to do things for me, and I wasn't giving you a chance to. That's what hurt you, now wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess maybe it was, George.
But I want you to know, I didn't forget you while I was away, and I saw this extension apple picking. And, well, I hope this little present makes you feel better.
Well, thank you, George.
You're welcome, Amos.
Well, Grandpa, you feel better now?
What's the matter with the feet?
Oh, just tired from apple picking, George.
Get them all picked, huh?
Yeah, every last one of them. Say, how about you having lunch with us, George?
Fine. Was the man from Mother Norman's around?
Yeah, he was around, George.
Good. Then you sold him.
Yeah, George. I sold him.
Wonderful. Say, do you get the 5 1/4 for me?
Well, the truth is, George, I wasn't able to sell your apples to Mother Norman.
You wasn't? Why not? Mother Norman always buys them, and the price was right.
Well, some other farmer went around behind your back and undercut your price.
Now, what kind of a dirty skunk would do a dirty trick like that?
Well, George, sometimes there is little misunderstandings, and a fella ain't always the whole hog dirty skunk he seems to be.
Ah, that ain't no excuse. Why, you couldn't do a thing like that if your life depended on it.
I wouldn't say that.
Well, why, if you'd been there, Amos, you'd never let that dirty, underhanded backstabber get away with a trick like that.
No doubt about it. Grandpa could have stopped it.
Well, no matter how long it takes, I'll get even with him. Who was it? Amos, you tell me who it was, and we'll both go and get a dirty rat together.
Pick up that 100-bushel apples from your grandfather.
Grandpa, Mr. Milton's here to get them apples.
Oh, good. Got them all ready for you, Mr. Milton. Prettiest things you ever seen. Shouldn't ought to be made into pie. Should ought to be made into statues.
He's not only going ahead with it, he's enjoying it.
Sure looks like it.
I'm used to everything, and even I am surprised at him.
I got over 100 bushels for you.
Well, let's get at it. It's Saturday. My man's on double time.
Yeah, well, you just wait to see these apples. You know, the secret of my apples is they come from contented trees. They's happy apples. They're great, big, red, juicy ones. That's what they is.
Wait a minute.
What's the matter?
This one's got a rotten spot in it.
Oh, you know, I'll bet that George McMichael. I bet that's what he done. He come over here and smuggled one of his rotten apples into my good ones.
This one's soft and mushy. This one's split. They're all bad.
Well, I can explain that. You see, I always put the bad ones on top instead on the bottom. It's more honest that way.
All right, this one's from the bottom, and it's worse than all the rest. How do you explain that?
Well, say now, if I was to drop the price a little, could we sort of forget the explanation?
I wouldn't buy your apples at any price. The deal's off.
Wait a minute. You can't do that. What am I going to do with all these rotten apples?
Every apple soft and mealy?
That's right. How about that crook McCoy trying to foist rotten apples on me?
You sure you was at the right house? You was talking to Amos McCoy?
It was McCoy, all right. He must have thought I was a real sucker.
Rotten apples. That don't sound like Amos. Why, he's one of the best farmers around here. Always winning prizes at the county fair.
Well, he must have won them with artificial apples.
Still don't sound like Amos.
He even tried to bribe me.
That sounds like Amos.
Now, I'd like to start dealing with you all over again, Mr. McMichael. Mother Norman needs your apples. Mother Norman needs your apples.
Yeah, at $5.50 a bushel.
No, that's too much. No deal.
You can always go back to the McCoys.
I'll make out a check.
Get a move on, will you, Peppina? I want to try and get these apples in town, sell as many as we can.
Well, I can't understand why Mr. Milton didn't buy them. You sure priced them cheap enough.
Yeah, well, me and Mr. Milton had an argument. It ended up all in his favor.
Well, that should prove something, Grandpa. I hate to use the word in reference to you, but cheaters never win.
Yeah, well, never mind the sermons, Kate. Come on, Peppina, shake a leg.
I think the car is overloaded already, senora.
Well, you ain't now. Go on, get another basket. Hurry up.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, hello, George.
Hi. How's every little thing this morning?
Well, things are just fine and busy. You have to excuse us. You got a lot of work to do.
Hey, fine-looking apples you got there.
Thank you, George.
Firm, color's real good. No soft spots.
Well, help yourself, George. We got enough apples to last us pretty near forever.
Where are you figuring on taking them?
Oh, we thought we'd just go from market to market, door to door.
Why don't you sell the whole crop in one lump?
Who are we going to sell them to?
I'll buy 'em.
You? George, what on earth for?
Well, I need apples. I'm in the market for the finest, and I ain't seen none better than these.
George, you're the dearest man I know, but well, we just can't let you do it.
No, sir. We can take our medicine.
No, you don't have to.
George, no. Us McCoys are like that. You see, Grandpa's always been the head of the family, and he's always made the decisions, and we've always stuck together and paid for them.
Look, I ain't doing you no favor. I'm asking for one. And I know I ain't got no right to after what Amos done for me already.
What are you talking about, George?
Well, Amos deliberately showed Mr. Milton a basket of rotten apples and lost his own deal on purpose. So, Mr. Milton had to come to me again and buy my crop. I get $5.50 a bushel.
Grandpa, I could kiss you 1,000 times.
Well, Amos, now I got to ask you that favor.
What's that, George?
Well, you see, I sold Mother Norman 300 bushels, but I only got 2. So, Amos, would you please sell me 100 bushels at $5.50 a bushel?
Oh, George, you're wonderful.
Say, George, I was just thinking.
Yeah?
Maybe if we was to hold out for $5.75 instead of a measly $5.50, it'd be better.
No.
Grandpa.
Por favor, Senor Grandpa.
Well, all right. But that's the trouble with you, George. Every time you make a deal, I lose money.